Hello ladies, I hope you're all doing well and enjoying the content that you're getting here in the Healthy Hormones group. Today I wanted to just pop in and talk a little bit about the menopause, or more specifically perimenopause. So many of you that I've been talking with have expressed that you are of a certain age, or that you've noticed your body is changing and it feels like you're in the menopause or you have already gone through the menopause. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about this because I think it's important that we understand that it's not just how it's supposed to be. Of course, it is a time where things are shifting with our hormones, and it's a change of life. It's not called change of life for no reason, but it's also a time where we kind of are just taught to suck it up and to just accept all the symptoms that we're feeling, all the struggles that we're kind of fighting against. And I wanted to just come in here to say that there are some ways that you can help yourself and support your body through this process, and I wanted to explain actually why it is that so much of the symptoms you're feeling are coming about. So first of all, just in terms of the symptoms, so many of you have mentioned things like physical symptoms. So you've noticed recently that you've got maybe a lot more bloating and gas, and maybe you have headaches, maybe you're feeling tired all the time. And specifically, many of you have mentioned that, your libido just isn't what it used to be, or that you've put on weight and you have suddenly put on weight and can't really figure out how to get it off. It's not coming off as easily as it used to come off. And it's really difficult to understand why that is. You're doing all the things, you're eating well, or maybe you're exercising as you used to, but it's just not working the way it used to work. But then there are also some mental and behavioral signs that you've mentioned as well. Things like feeling like you're having the most severe or intense PMS, so that irritability and the mood swings, or a lot of you are actually mentioned that you're feeling really stressed, overly stressed for your circumstances, or actually quite anxious. So where you used to feel super confident before, you're now not so at ease anymore, or you're just feeling more like you're questioning every decision you make, everything about yourself. You're just generally over anxious. And really a lot of this is to do with hormonal balance. Of course, as I said, our hormones are shifting during this time in our lives. And actually what maybe many of you don't know is that menopause, actually the definition of menopause is really once you have not bled for a full 12 months. So that's when you are considered in the menopause. But before that is perimenopause. And this can be anything from the age of 35, maybe even younger, depending on your individual makeup. But in general, it's sort of 5 to 10 years before the actual menopause that you could be struggling with all these sorts of symptoms. And that's a long time. And I think it's really important that if I can give you any kind of support and anything that might give you some relief, I hope to do that. So what I did want to just mention is just exactly what's happening during this time and why those symptoms are coming about. So we all know that we have various different hormones as women, and two of the main ones are our estrogen and our progesterone. And of course, while we're bleeding, while we're in the menses, we have, shall I say, in our fertile years, we do have quite a good balance of these two. And of course, progesterone is quite protective in a lot of ways to our body, and particularly to a fetus. So it helps us to fall pregnant and actually maintain a pregnancy. So we really need progesterone for that. But of course, naturally with age, progesterone does start to dip off, and the ovaries start to just produce less of it. And so we can end up in a situation where even though there is still some progesterone, we have relatively higher estrogen levels. So these always need to be in a balance with each other, not necessarily equal, but in a good ratio, in a balanced ratio with each other. But of course, if our progesterone is dipping off, then relatively speaking, the estrogen seems higher than the expected ratio. But there are other reasons that we can become what we call estrogen dominant. And it's this estrogen dominance that actually creates all of these symptoms in a lot of ways. And many of the reasons, there's so many, I've written a blog about this, which I will link to at the bottom of this video. But just to highlight a couple, estrogen dominance can come about, of course, obviously, the most obvious reason being if you are supplementing with estrogen. So for example, if for whatever reason your doctor or your gynae has put you on extra estrogen supplementation, you can quickly end up with a dominance of estrogen. So you really need to work quite closely with your practitioner to just make sure that your levels are where they are expected to be, and based on your symptoms as well. But there are other reasons. So one of the most prolific ones, shall I say, but one that not many people have been taught about or learned about is because of something called xenoestrogens. These days in our modern lives, we are exposed to so many toxins, and particularly in our home cleaning products, in our beauty products, and our personal hygiene products. There are a lot of chemicals in there which are considered endocrine disruptors, meaning that they disrupt your hormonal system, and particularly they are xenoestrogenic, so they mimic estrogen in your body. And what that means then, of course, is that to your body, it seems like you have all these extra estrogens on top of your natural production. And again, relative to your progesterone, that ratio is skewed. And so this can be another reason why you're starting to experience all sorts of symptoms. And particularly when it comes to the weight loss piece, many of the women that I'm working with and that I'm speaking with on a daily basis going through this complain about that kind of middle spread. So this is very common because of an increase in estrogen. But another common reason is if we are carrying a little bit of extra weight, specifically extra body fat. So you may actually be quite slim, but what we call skinny fat. So it may not be that you are slim and super muscular. Maybe you're slim, but you do have some body or organ fat still in your body. But anyway, whether you're overweight or slim, if you are carrying any body fat or what we call adipose tissue is actually estrogenic as well, meaning that it produces more estrogens. So again, that increases the levels and exacerbates the problem for you. And of course, a lot of this can be mitigated by how we are looking after what we're eating, how we are moving. So if we can shift the weight, if we can get it to reduce, shift the body fat, then of course you'll be producing less of those estrogens from your adipose tissue. So it's important to take everything into account as a whole person and not just one piece of the puzzle, but that is something to consider. And then stress is a major piece of this. And of course, during this time when we're changing and our hormones are in flux and we're feeling anxious and more stressed, it's really difficult to just because someone tells you to feel less stressed, right? And it's also very difficult in modern life to just completely get rid of stress. This isn't possible. Stresses are in our lives. What is important is how we react to them. And so if we can find ways to cope better, to manage our stress better, to help bring our bodies back down into a rest and digest mode. We have two nervous system modes, the rest and digest, which is healing and restorative and regenerative of our cells, etc., and detoxing our bodies. And then the second mode is our fight or flight. So this is our stress response. Well, if we can make efforts to, throughout the day, from time to time, bring ourselves out of this fight or flight mode, nervous system, into the rest and digest mode, we'll be far, far better off in terms of our overall symptoms of health and of hormonal balance. And this is because stress all on its own, when it's chronic, ongoing, daily stress, all on its own can increase body fat. So it increases our blood sugar, it increases our insulin levels, and then of course any excess is stored as body fat. And so again, body fat is estrogenic, creating more and more estrogen in our body. So you can see how it's a cycle and everything fits together. And so we have to not just look after how many calories we're eating and how much exercise we're doing, but we do have to consider everything in terms of our body, our mind, and our soul, really. So what are the things that bring you joy? What are the things that give you purpose in life? These are the types of things that will help you overcome or cope better with stress. So in stressful times, when you know you've got something to look forward to or to enjoy, you're likely to be able to cope better and manage your stress better. So these are just some examples, and there are many ways to counter estrogen dominance. We need to also be sure that we have clear detox pathways, for example. And what I mean by that is, how are you constipated, for example? Are you drinking water and flushing out your kidneys? Because these are the ways that the liver will metabolize any kind of toxins and, these xenoestrogens, and even any excess production of our natural endogenous hormones. But it needs a way to flush them out. So if you're not drinking enough water, and if you're not eating good fiber or having a good bowel movement every day to excrete waste products and these chemicals and toxins, then we can end up in a situation where the hormones are just recirculating and reabsorbed. And so, this is one way. How can you counter estrogen dominance? Make sure that you have ways to get regular in your bowel movements. And of course, I can help you with this. If there's anyone out there, if you're thinking, wow, how do I do that? Just ping me. I'm happy to give you some tips and pointers. Of course, like I said, we can clean up our cleaning products and our personal hygiene products. There are so many options these days, many brands on the market which are completely 100% natural, that do not have these xenoestrogenic chemicals in them. Again, I can give you some pointers, some links, some tips, and let you know where you can find those. But there are many ways that you can also clean your house with some very natural ingredients like vinegar and baking soda. And so there are several ways to clean up our products. Another great way is to really increase your vegetable intake, and specifically cruciferous vegetables. So things like your broccoli and your collard greens and your Brussels sprouts, cabbage, etc. So these are really good for helping us flush out and bind these estrogens and flush them out. And other ways are things like, I don't know if you've ever heard of seed cycling. This is a way where you cycle various different types of seeds throughout your cycle. So even if you're not bleeding, you can cycle the seeds according to the phases of the moon, actually, the lunar cycle. And I have found these to be particularly effective for things like hot flashes and night sweats. So it's a really good way to just rebalance those progesterones and estrogens in your body. And again, read my blog. I've put a link to a seed cycling guide to getting rid of your hot flashes. It's all there. I'll pop the link down below. But I did want to just say finally that if you are particularly concerned about the weight that you're picking up at during this time that you used to be able to shift and that you just can't anymore, I have put together a program to help women specifically with hormonal balance in order to be able to shift the weight naturally. I'm so happy to talk you through this, to clarify what your goals are. I'll also pop a link down below in the comments to my calendar. I have an online scheduled calendar. I'm so happy to have a call with you and just discuss and see where you're at, where I can help you, where I can clarify some things for you. So I hope this has been useful, just a piece of information that is, as I say, it's something that's coming up a lot at the moment from many of you in the group, and I just wanted to address it because I wanted you to know that you're not alone. It is a time that we have to all go through as women, but it doesn't have to be so much of a struggle, and you have support. I'm happy to support you, so just let me know. I wish you all a lovely day, and I shall see you again soon. Bye bye.